Plate tectonics tells us that plates move, and if they're going to move around, they're eventually going to come in contact with other plates. What we want to talk about is what happens when they do, and so what we're talking about is plate boundaries. And boundaries are points where plates are coming in contact with each other. There's essentially three types. There's a convergent plate boundary, and this is where plates are coming together. We have a variety of these, and it's based on the type of crust that's moving around. We have oceanic crust and we have continental crust, those two types. And so we can have ocean running into continental, we can have continental running into continental, and we can have ocean running into ocean. And all of this has to do with the density of those particular crustal plates. So oceanic crust is more dense. So if you have something that is more dense running into something that is less dense, then the object that is more dense is going to go underneath, unless they're equal, and then one of them will just do the underneath part. So if we look at these examples here, the one on the top, this is oceanic, and this is continental. And in this case, the oceanic crust goes underneath the continental crust. It gets melted, and it forms volcanoes. This is a classic example of something called subduction. Subduction is where one plate goes underneath another. This diagram, the second one here, what we're looking at is continental and continental coming together. And in this case, they both have the same density, so instead of going down, they scrunch into each other and then go upward. This is a great example of how the Himalaya volcanoes form, Himalaya mountains, like Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. So ocean to continent, a good example of this is the Cascade Mountains, which is like in Oregon and Washington. Continent to continent, this is the Himalayas. And then ocean to ocean, an example of this would be Japan. These are all examples of convergent plate boundaries, where one plate is meeting another head-on. The next type is what's called divergent, and we can have oceanic crust diverging apart, and we have continental crust diverging apart. And essentially, then what's going to happen is magma is going to reach the surface. The oceanic example, this is the mid-Atlantic ridge. That's this one. And then a continental to continental divergent example is in the Afar, it's called Afar Triangle in Africa. This is essentially going to split a part of Africa off into the ocean. The last plate boundary is a transform. It can have an ocean or continental. And essentially what's happening in this is if we look from the top, what we've got is two plates that are moving side to side. So this is not an up or down. This is side to side, sliding along each other. And the classic example of this is the San Andreas Fault, which is in California. These are all the different types of plate boundaries. And so we've either got plates moving toward each other, which is convergent. We have them moving away from each other, which is divergent, or we have them moving side to side, which is transformed. Those are your three types of plate boundaries. And that's what's going to create all these different land features in different parts of the world.